Then, Janet, would you tell us how did it happen that you worked with John Newmark? Didn't you have a regular accompanist?
In the early years when I came to America, to North America, I did have an accompanist in England, a small group of people with whom I worked and have worked regularly for years. But the first few years that I came here, it wasn't always possible to bring people over from England. And of course, when I asked my agents, who were then Hurok, who would be the best to use here, of course the name of John Newmark came up immediately, because to us in Europe he is the French equivalent of Gerald Moore. He is the North American Gerald Moore. I suppose that's the greatest compliment one can possibly give to any accompanist, that his name is to be compared. And it was especially good for me to have this opportunity to work with him because of his experience here. I was like a new girl at school. Things were strange to me. Audiences were strange. I didn't fully understand the kind of repertoire that people wanted here. I had a great many things to learn. And to have John's name suggested to me was, I think, the very best help an inexperienced singer, inexperienced in the terms of the country, could possibly wish to have.
This answered the three questions I had for the first. Je ne pense pas que ça me gêne. Je ne pense pas que ça me gêne pas. Je change de forme. Okay. Now we'll go to your that question that you answered. Then, Janet, you have to answer that question probably 1,000 times, but may I ask you, what do you expect from an accompanist?
What a singer expects from an accompanist is a very individual thing. But the word, I think, that springs to my mind immediately is a cooperation, a meeting point. It's a question of trying to find some common ground. Somebody like John, who has played for so many singers, has of course played the same music for those singers many times. So when I come along, although the song is very familiar to him, he has suddenly, in a very few moments, to understand the way I'm going to sing it. We all sing the same words, we all sing the same note values, but every singer of any worth, I think, brings something individual and unique. So it's very important when you're meeting an accompanist for the first time to have the quality of fast understanding of what the individual is going to do. And somebody famous, as he was to me in those years, his name was so well known, he could have been intimidating. He had this vast experience with which I could, on which I could draw. I realized this, and it was immediate that he wanted to give that to me. All his experience, all the things, all the years and the people that he worked with, all the different ways of singing a particular song, he was immediately willing to share. And this was very touching, very moving, that there was immediately this kind of cooperation. We just began to make music together. It took a little time for us both to understand perfectly what the other was doing, but this was inevitable. The point is that the contact was made, the understanding, the willingness to understand what each other was trying to do was apparent right from the first. And to me it's the most important thing, a quality of give and take. Maybe my tempo was faster than somebody else's or slower than somebody else's, but John was always immediately responsive in understanding what I wanted in this individual way of interpretation. You see, he's such a good pianist. an accompanist has to be an excellent pianist and know the repertoire so well, so that when the strange singer walks through the door, he is able to adapt to that singer in the first rehearsal. It's a very complicated art, but he has this marvellous foundation of piano playing, absolute security, great technique. On top of that is the understanding of the music and this vast experience which overwhelmed me, in the first years. I feel very strongly that the ultimate responsibility for the way a song is shaped, for its tempo, for its ultimate expression, the singer has to take the final responsibility. I feel that an accompanist must be a partner in many, many senses of the word. It's a sharing, a communication, a sharing of responsibility, except that the ultimate decision for perhaps the tempo of a song and the final way it's going to be performed must belong to the singer, because that is the singer's art. The art of the accompanist is to fall in with this, to suggest, to mould, to give advice. With somebody like a John Newmark, you take that advice. It would be very stupid to work with such a man of such stature, and ignore what he has to say. And I suppose I've been very fortunate all my working life in working with people for whom this sort of exchange is possible. It's a marvellous thing to meet a person, say for the first time, as I did, John, in 1966, and feel, in one way, you're strangers. His name is known to me, but his person was not. And yet, within 5 minutes, because of the music we have to work on, we find that our minds work very much in the same way, that we are, in fact, it feels like old friends. This is a wonderful thing, and very rare thing, and very important, because in those first few minutes of meeting, discussing, working, you discover whether or not you are going to be able to make music together. And of course, after those very first concerts that we did, we worked quite a lot together. And I suppose this enormous fund of experience was the thing which I remember most from those early years, the fact that he had done so much and worked with so many people and was able to help me very much with programming. When we'd go to various cities, he would say, well, there's a specific sort of thing about the audience here which you should exploit and sing so and so and so and so. This kind of thing is absolutely invaluable. And until you have gone through seasons in another country, as different as this is from Europe, there are things that you just don't know about. You have to find out the hard way. And working with John very much cushioned me. It very much protected me in those earlier years till I found out for myself how different audiences were and what kind of programs I should bring. He protected me very much until those years when I could stand on my own feet, so to speak.